Okay, today's video we are going to talk about PMAX or shopping campaigns, whatever you're running to run shopping ads on Google, where, of course, little picture ads with the price next to it. As it comes to your products on the product feed that powers your shopping campaigns, having the information about whether that item is in stock or out of stock, how that'll actually affect your shopping results, even though shopping is supposed to take into consideration whether that item's in stock or not, as to whether your ad for that particular product or item will show or not. And this happens whether you're using a dynamic feed for processing or uploading your products to Google Merchant Center and then from there to Google Search, or a dynamic feed. So static and dynamic feeds. We're noticing at our agency that if an item comes into stock, the ads for that particular product doesn't necessarily start showing up right away. If an item goes out of stock, you will not necessarily see that item not advertised anymore. And Google may have some of their own reasons for this, like the machine learning algorithm doesn't understand how to flip things on and off like a switch. But regardless of the situation, because of this, you actually lose a decent amount of money not actually actively keeping your shopping or PMAX campaigns updated with the right items that actually are in stock or are not in stock. And I'm going to talk about that in this particular video, to the point where you can lose double digits in terms of the amount of profit and ROI that you're making from your campaigns. So with that said, if you run Google Shopping or PMAX campaigns, one thing you should be aware of is items that are actually out of stock. Your campaigns don't update as fast as the product feeds in your Google Merchant Center do. So if you are taking a step backwards here, if you don't know, to run the shopping campaign, or if maybe you had somebody else doing this for you, to run the shopping campaign, you have to upload a list of your items in your e-commerce store or on your website. As long as you have a buy button or a request a quote button, you can do shopping, which a lot of people don't know that. But no matter what site type you have there that lists your products, you need to have a so-called product feed given to Google Merchant Center, which Google Merchant Center takes that data, processes it, sends it to Google Ads so you can run your shopping campaigns, to have your little picture ad show up there with your price there on Google Search. And so there's a dynamic feed which will automatically take all the items on your site as it exists and send it to Google Merchant Center generally once a day. And then from there, Google Merchant Center will update Google Ads, or so is the idea, so that as soon as there's a change in your store, Google Ads knows about it in real time. That's the idea here, which in reality isn't what we found happens necessarily all of the time, at least when it comes to stock issues. The other way, by the way, you can do this is through a manual feed, which you take all the items on your site, you put it basically into a spreadsheet. You take that spreadsheet, you give it to Google Merchant Center, and then Google Merchant Center now can process and send that data to Google Ads, which if you have an update in your store, Google Merchant Center and Google Ads, as a result, aren't going to know about that change unless you sent a new sheet that was updated with those new changes about your products or about your store on it. So in other words, if you have an item that goes out of stock and you're using a manual spreadsheet, i.e. manual product feed to update Google about the status of the products on your site, then Google will start just basically, or continue, I should say, to promote that particular item forever, basically, and send people to a product that they can't buy. So because of that, dynamic feeds are generally preferred to manual feeds if you have a lot of changes going on in your store. If you don't have a lot of changes, a manual feed's fine. It's actually a little bit easier to manage. There's less to go wrong, less to break. I've talked about, by the way, on other videos, the benefits of dynamic versus manual product feeds, which you can go back and look at my other videos if you want more info about how to decide which one of those to use. The main other benefit, just to keep it short and so you wouldn't have to watch that video, is if you use a manual feed, it's great because you can actually give Google the image of the product that you want to show and have that image of the product be different than the image of the product on your site. Whereas if you're using a dynamic feed, which is done through a software script that processes all the items from your site, sends them to Google, it's just going to take the product image on your site. It's not going to let you do something different than the image on your site. And where that comes in handy is, or if you didn't know, the amount of money you're basically going to make with shopping has to do with how high your click-through rate is and how high your conversion rate is of the traffic that clicks on your shopping ads, goes to your site, because Google wants to promote the items that helps their users the most. And so with that, the click-through rate of your shopping ad is highly dependent on the image and the price, because that's all there's there showing. So if you can optimize the image and say put a background behind it, whereas you find it would catch the eye more if you put that grill that you're selling on a picnic table versus having a white background. You could actually do that with a manual feed. You would just take the item as is on your site, instead of having it on a white background, which is on your site by default. You put it on a lifestyle background, which was what we call it. But there's an actual, like, the product sitting on a table or whatever. You can test that. You can see, because you can see the click-through rate on every item individually if you go into your shopping campaign under products. And you can see if the click-through rate went up when you actually changed the image to something that, to an image where there was a background there. And then with that, you can do it on one item where you can test it like that with the background. And if you see that works, you can test all the rest of your items having, instead of a white background, you do a lifestyle background where that product's sitting on the ground, sitting on a table, in a closet, whatever, and get a big jump in your click-through rates, which that gets you not just more clicks from the part of the campaign that already works well for you, but it'll actually get you a better showing for other search results where you could get a return, but Google's not showing you, it's preferring a competitor because their ad gets a higher click-through rate. Assuming you guys had the same conversion rates, they would go and show the one with the higher click-through rate. And they may have the higher click-through rate because they have a item that has a better background, and therefore because you're not using it, you're losing an opportunity in that so-called ad auction, if you will, which Google's constantly with their algorithm deciding which ones to show, from which companies to show, not just which product to show on your feed, but of the 20 people who want their shopping ads to show, which one they're actually going to show for which search and what types of people who make those individual searches. So anyway, that's just a side thing as to whether you use a manual feed or automated feed. The drawback to using the manual feed, of course, like I was saying earlier, is if you have changes on your site, you got to, every single time you have a change, upload a new version of your product feed, and that can be labor intensive if you have, or just straight up unmanageable if you have thousands of products, for example. So anyway, with all that said, why though does if your item goes out of stock, if you have a dynamic feed like I was telling you about, where you generally will have a plugin, if you're using WooCommerce or Shopify, you'll have a product feed on your site to do this dynamic product feed, which takes all the status of the store once a day, sends it to Google Merchant Center, which then passes it on to Google Ads. Why, if they see an item that's out of stock in Shopify, in your Shopify store, send that data to Google Merchant Center, which in Google Merchant Center, that item will say out of stock. Why is it in Google Ads, if you check under the products menu of that shopping campaign, does that item say still in stock, ready to serve? The reason for that, I have no idea. All I know is, basically it keeps running that product for a while. I don't know why they're necessarily doing it. I just thought it was strange enough and I seen this happen on multiple of our clients' accounts before, that I decided to make a video about it. And so if you have a lot of items that are going in and out of stock, you definitely will be able to you'll help yourself a lot, as you'll have a double-digit overall change in your sales just because you're just letting it ride. Items that shouldn't be promoted are, items that are not promoted should be. So therefore, it's a good idea to go into the campaigns and exclude items that are out of stock as soon as they go out of stock. And you can't go in there every day, which would be the best, but what is reasonable is you could go in perhaps once a week or once a month, go into Google Merchant Center, see all the items that are out of stock, go into your shopping campaign under the products menu, see if those items say excluded out of stock. That's basically what it says under the item itself, and see if there's parity there. Is the item that shows out of stock in Google Merchant Center saying out of stock on your Google Ads campaign menu? And if not, you exclude it manually. Okay? You just have to mark it as excluded. That product will no longer be eligible to show in shopping. Google will have to show another product, or just not show it all for that particular ad auction that particular product was showing up for, the ad auctions that it was showing up for, if you will. And similarly, mark items ready to serve. If an item's marked ready to serve under the products menu in your shopping campaign or in your PMAX campaign, if you're using PMAX to run shopping ads, when the items go, if items are in stock on Google Merchant Center, but it's showing excluded out of stock on your Google Ads campaign there, then you want to mark those items ready to serve or not excluded, so that that item starts running sooner than Google, basically catches up sooner as to the status of that item being in stock, if you will. I haven't done any long-term monitoring on what the average time is from the time that when an item goes in stock or out of stock on Google Merchant Center to where Google Ads updates that, but it's a long time, more than a month sometimes. So it's enough to where even if you went in there once a month to resynchronize the in stock, out of stock, like I was just mentioning there, manually, you're still going to end up with a big difference in results. I have no idea why this is occurring. It is what it is. Even when you're, I guess I just don't know. I would like an answer from Google if somebody or somebody could tell me why this is occurring. Even when you're, Google Merchant Center clearly says one thing and the Google Ads product menu says another. But regardless of the situation, I don't think we can change it or do anything about it to fix it so that it automatically updates so Google Merchant Center reflects what Google Ads shows all the time. All we can do if we want to, rectify most of the issue is going in there and manually marking an item excluded or reactivating the item in Google Ads under that shopping campaign or under that PMAX campaign. And to get your double-digit loss in sales back to where, or if you want to reverse it, you can get a double-digit increase in sales if you have a lot of in-stock, out-of-stock going on your site by manually updating the product feeds. Under the product menu on the shopping or PMAX campaign. So anyway, with that said, that's pretty much it. The sooner that you update it, obviously, the more results gain you're going to get. If you update it once a day, that would be the best. Once a week, a little bit worse, but okay. Once a month, you're still going to get a benefit, but not as much as if you would have updated it once a week or once a day. And so, like I said, though, this happens with or without having a dynamic feed that feeds the status about every item into Google Merchant Center. Doesn't matter if you're doing that or uploading a manual product feed to Google Merchant Center about the status, the stock status of each item or items in your store. So the whole purpose of having the dynamic product feed, making sure that if an item goes out of stock, automatically that next day that information will be sent to Google Merchant Center, is basically worthless because Google Merchant Center isn't updating Google Ads fast enough for whatever reason. So again, I don't know why that is. Very, very frustrating. I don't know. I wish it would do it. But on the flip side, if you think about it this way, everybody else you're competing against, as I touched on before, there's 8 shopping ads on Google there, right? There's probably 20 people who want to run their shopping ads in your market if you're in a decent, the average competitive market, because shopping ads generally work better than search ads or any other ads that they can run because they're easier to set up for the average person. The average person only wants to spend 15 minutes setting up their ads, which is basically none for a search campaign to get that to work. So the playing field is leveled in terms of the skill level required to get the shopping ads to work. So everybody's on the same level there. Therefore, it's more competitive in general to try to get it to work extremely well because you can't just outwork people as easily. But everybody else has an in-stock, out-of-stock issue, or they have a lot of that in-stock, out-of-stock going on their sites, and everybody else does in your niche, and they don't know what I just told you here. Everybody's going to get a double-digit decrease in their profitability from that shopping or PMAX campaign, whereas you're not going to have it. So what you now have an edge just by hiring a outsourced contractor, perhaps in a foreign country that can do this for a few bucks an hour, to once a month go check the out-of-stock items, automatically exclude or reactivate items on your shopping campaign, and get that double-digit increase back. So respectively, even though it takes work, once you've actually trained that contractor that's working for a few bucks an hour in another country, in Asia, whatever, essentially you've got a way to get double digits more profitability in your company that you didn't have before, and you don't have to physically mess with it. Once somebody's been trained to do that once, they could do it for the next 10 years without any input, and without even having to check anything over if you found someone that's reasonable to work with. So in essence, I would rather have this problem than not have it, because I know my competition is not going to worry about it. I know my competition on average don't like to hire PPC managers, and even if they do hire PPC managers, those PPC managers have limited time and they're trying to do as little as possible, and they probably aren't they either don't know about this or they're not going to mess with it either. So I now have a way to make more money by having a bit more knowledge. So anyway, with that said, hopefully that sinks in, and you go ahead and you set up a contractor to work with you to keep the product status on your site updated a lot if you have stuff going in and out of stock, in and out of stock fairly often. And with that, I would say even if 1, 2, 3% of my items are going in and out of stock every month, I would already for sure be doing this, because there's going to be a measurable increase in profitability going ahead and doing this, and could be very significant depending if a certain item is heavily, because we don't know when we give Google all of our items, they may promote only a small section of all the 100 items that we have, maybe only 5 of them, because those 5 items consistently do the best. And if a couple of those items go out of stock because they're being promoted all the time, then we got a major problem when now almost half of our traffic from our shopping campaigns are going to an item that's out of stock, if you will. And Google's not, caught up with the fact that the items are out of stock and promoting it for 1 month. Your shopping campaign's going to go down, fall like a rock, and they're sitting there not knowing what's wrong with it, chewing out your ad guy, when really the item, Google just doesn't know the items are out of stock. And so if you have this, at least if the results are down, it isn't because of your stock issues or what I just told you here today, and you're just automatically taking advantage of that fact that your competition's not going to be up on this, and you're doing it as well. So it could be a major part. You could be getting half of your results just by doing this one little thing if you are on the, in the extreme examples that I gave you, where a few items are being promoted and the rest of them aren't. And those are the items that are in and out of stock a lot, which it would make sense, because if a few items are being promoted by your shopping campaign, those are the items that are most likely to go in and out of stock in reality. So go ahead and if you don't believe me, go ahead and check Google Merchant Center, go check your campaign, see how they don't line up, and then from there, take action. Get yourself a video recorder, a video screen recorder, record how to tell if a stock item is matching up in Google Merchant Center, an item in Google Merchant Center is matching up with your shopping campaign, and under the products menu there, and how to actually turn the item off if it's not in stock anymore, and how to turn it back on if it is in stock and they're not lining up together, if you will. So hope you enjoyed this video. I have a ton of other videos on this channel about other PPC money making strategies. You should consider subscribing to this channel, as I'm going to give you on a silver platter here by tuning in how to make money with PPC, given us at our PPC agency regularly testing all this new stuff and finding new fancy ways to make money that other people aren't simply doing. And so it's the best information that I know of on YouTube as far as actual actionable advice on how to make money with PPC ads. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up. And I also, by the way, have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog where you can find step-by-step advice on how to set up campaigns like I set it up for our clients here at our PPC agency to guarantee the results. So if you want to know how we're doing things on a more individualized level, you can find great supplementary information there. If you have any questions about anything I covered today, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel. As a final note, I have a turnkey PPC campaign program here that we've released at our agency where if a client's getting fantastic results, generating millions of dollars of sales in some market where we spent years setting up and optimizing campaigns for a client, we can get you the exact same campaigns that they're running as long as you want to run it in another market that they don't compete in, and start a business around that to where you know the exact results you're going to get with that campaign, you know how many millions in sales you're going to be able to generate a year from the campaign that we set up from them, the landing page, the tracking, everything that they did to get those millions of dollars in sales from PPC, you can do it in another market and basically have a business in a box. As the campaigns are working so well, you can easily just outsource the work to another party. Since we're with talking about a service here, and just because you have the campaign and you're managing it, you've already got a business ready and you're making money. We also have product campaigns where somebody is not using the campaigns that we built, even though they were profitable before, which you could find in similar products and go ahead and take advantage of a campaign that we built that we already know works as well, and join and have something along the e-commerce line of business so that you can actually skip past the part where you had to figure out marketing that works for that business and have something that's just ironclad already and just works. We may also, by the way, you might have gotten lucky. We have a campaign in your market already that we already have that we know gets fantastic results already. And in that case, you don't have to do any of the stuff that I'm talking about in this video. We can just give you the campaign that already generates the millions in sales at a decent rate, which you're only spending 10% of your revenue on maintaining the ad spend, and you've got literally a multi-million-dollar a year business that you can tack onto your current business just by having the campaigns that we know that we've built for that market already. So anyway, if you're interested in that type of thing, reach out to our firm. We'll talk to you about the different campaigns we have markets in and the type of results you can get. So I'll wrap it up with that. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you on my next video where we have another great PPC strategy for you. See you then.